Hi there, my name is Creek Stewart, and every single family should be having a conversation about long-term food storage. You never know when our food supply chain is going to be interrupted, or when we might have to shelter in place in our house for an undetermined amount of time.
Meow, Huples cat and Wolfie Terrier. I agree with Creek Stewart on this one. Everybody should have a conversation about long-term food storage and act on that conversation. And if you haven't acted on getting fresh food in SHTF or a power outage for a week, this is your ideal opportunity. The reason it's ideal is Creek Stewart is actually offering a $19.99 American course for free, and it is free. I've enrolled to check it. Absolutely free. You register, they get your email, I guess. But the bottom line is you get about 20 to 25 minutes of Creek rambling on about a very important prepping skill that every prepper has to have, which is called sprouting.
And eat the foods that we have in our pantries or in our long-term food storage. A lot of people store things like rice and beans and wheat and freeze-dried food for long-term food storage situations.
Because a lot of people don't, they just supply themselves with white rice and maybe one or two types of bean. What Creek's assuming here, and it's something I would promote and I have promoted, is getting lots of different types of grains and beans in your long-term food storage. Buy white rice, it's a good bulk filler of carbohydrate, but make sure you've got a ton of green lentils and brown lentils, make sure you've got a lot of millet, make sure you've got a lot of couscous. Don't be trapped into just buying one or two types of bean or grain in a SHTF situation, because it'll get really stale quite quickly.
But oftentimes overlook a category that is so important, and that's access to fresh greens and vegetables and fruits. It's definitely something that our bodies are going to be craving if we ever have to tap into our long-term food storage products.
I don't care if you're on a farm or if you have a huge garden and great garden skills, or even an indoor solar array that powers your hydroponics. Sprouting's cheap, easy, reliable, and can be done entirely indoors, so you don't have to go out, you don't have to take any risks outdoors, and no matter what the weather is, if it's a volcanic ashfall or if there's no sunlight because of fires burning in the cities, you will be able to, as long as you have the seeds available, make fresh food for yourself. And it is very nutritious. It does require a degree of refrigeration. If you're not able to refrigerate it, I wouldn't go beyond 24 hours at room temperature during the summer for sure of sprouts. But you can eat big clumps of this stuff, especially if you've mixed it in with white rice.
Well, in this course, I'm going to teach you how to grow fresh greens, just like this, in mason jars on your kitchen counter so that you can have an everlasting supply of fresh greens if you ever had to shelter in place in the form of sprouting.
So don't worry if you don't have mason jars and you don't have the sprouting lids and you don't know what you're doing. It's not complicated at all. I've done some videos on it. Feel free to look them up. I'll probably link them at the end. But one of the things he does is he puts Amazon links up. Don't just click on the links and buy, though of course you can. Have a look around, see if you can find comparable products at a less cheaper price. It's always a good idea. And in terms of sprouting seeds, I'll show you my stockpile, which I've had on video before, that I get from a Canadian company that actually puts the seeds in Mylar bags for me in advance. Now, a little bit of a word here. These seeds will, of course, expire over time. Now, even if you only get 10% of the yield, you'll get a significant amount of produce. And also bear in mind, you can also sprout these and plant them outdoors to gather more seeds when the plants grow. That's also very important in a really long SHTF. Isn't it, Wolfie?
I'm going to teach you my 6-day sprouting cycle, where you'll load a jar every day for 6 days. And after that, you can harvest an entire jar of fresh greens every single day for as long as you have sprouting seeds.
Now, I would say that's the minimum for 2 people, 2 adults. I think, to be honest with you, if it's looking like an extended SHTF because, say, nuclear war's broken out, if it is an extended SHTF, it's going to go on for years. What you want to do right from the beginning is to make sure that you are going to, as soon as you can, regrow those seeds. But in the meantime, what you want to make sure you're going to get to do is to have lots of variety of seeds, sprouting seeds, not just 1 or 2 types, but a huge variety of them. Mix and match, mess around with them. So you're going to get in a lot of minerals, which is absolutely critical from this product, which I don't think he's mentioned, but I only quickly went through the course. It's an important source of minerals as well as obviously vitamins. And the bulk of the food is water, and it's entirely vegan, which is also a good thing. So I would say 1 jar for 2 adults. So if you have a family, act accordingly. Get enough mason jars with the specific types of lid in. And all of these lids really are is just screen meshes. And you can easily jury rig something up if you had to, but it's actually a lot easier to get a lid that goes on. Now what he markets are plastic lids. I didn't really like plastic lids, so I went with the metal ones. So I can tell you for sure they rust. I don't really care, but they do. So if you can, go with the plastic ones and make sure that you've got the ability to sterilize the containers after use. So in SHTF, this would mean if you don't have chemicals like hydrogen peroxide or bleach left in year 6, what you want to do is have enough mason jars and lids to be able to leave it in the sunlight, hopefully there will be some by then, for a long period of time. So instead of having a 6-day cycle, what you'd have to do is have a 6-day cycle with another 6 jars for the 2 adults in reserve. So I think what I'm trying to say here is make sure you got plenty of mason jars, make sure you got plenty of the lids.
And I'll teach you what seeds you need to stock in your long-term food storage. The great thing about sprouting is that it's really simple. It's not complicated. It's very inexpensive. You don't have to have a green thumb, and it takes up hardly any space at all. Just a little corner on your kitchen table.
Indeed, that is true, but in reasonable quantities you need to buy a lot of sprouts. This was about $120 Canadian for this for me. It's extremely heavy. I got this from sproutmaster.com. I don't recommend them for money reasons or free product reasons. I recommend them because of all of them I found. I don't even know if it's still operating. I'm going to check that now. This is what you get. Pre-Mylad. Another nice feature is that they do have the Ziploc tops, which is going to be very important. You don't want to waste this stuff. So you can buy them in blends, and you can also buy them in single use. Black quinoa. Anything with broccoli or radish in it's going to give you a lot of flavour, so focus on that if you don't know what you're doing. If you're going to buy a large amount of them like this, make sure that you actually have the storage space for this and you have the equipment to do it. Make sure that you open a few of these packets up and use them. Practice with them. Don't do the 6-day rotation, do 1 to start with. See how it goes.
So I hope you'll join me and let me teach you everything I know about sprouting in a long-term, shelter-in-place survival scenario.
Really, there's no downside to this. Even if you already are pretty used to sprouting, it's a free course. So I would encourage all of my subscribers to do it. I certainly enrolled in it. I will be watching it. I've glanced through it just to make sure it's actually sort of okay for you guys to actually watch. And it is. It's a good intro, though I still prefer my video on it. So I'm going to give you a segment now of one of the later on courses. It's probably about 20-25 minutes total of time involved in this. So I'm not really sure if you want to spend 20 American dollars on this, but certainly spending nothing on it is definitely worth doing.
Before we get started with the process of sprouting, we have to cover, at least for a few minutes, the types of different grains and beans and seeds that you can sprout. It's very likely that you've had sprouts before on salads or on sandwiches in restaurants or maybe even at home. Those are commonly like a mung bean or an alfalfa sprout or a broccoli sprout or a radish sprout, and we're definitely going to talk about those here in just a little bit, but I can't ignore the fact that in our long-term food storage pantries, we are storing sometimes hundreds of pounds of dried beans and grains such as wheat or oats or lentils and all different types of grains, millet, groats, all types of different things can be sprouted that we covered in the grain storage portion of the long-term food storage course. So I just want to share with you some of the things that I've sprouted and that I've had a lot of fun with straight from my long-term food storage pantry. Okay, so here is just a little bag of wheat that I pulled from my long-term food storage pantry. You can easily sprout wheat and wheatgrass, but in winter months like here, like now, I am always sprouting to have a constant supply of fresh greens. And I'm going to share with you exactly my process. And that's what you see in this ball jar right here. This is just absolutely full of those spicy radish sprouts. They're perfect additions to salads and stews and sandwiches and could literally dress up virtually any long-term food storage meal. So below is a list of things you can sprout. You're going to recognize a lot of those grains and those beans because we covered so many of those in the grains portion of this course.
Well, there you have it. Sorry, Wolfie didn't stay for the whole video, but he had other things to do, sleeping over there. I'm just going to finish off with some stills from the course itself so you can get a feel for what it looks like when you go there and you can figure out what you're going to do. It's very simple to register, costs no money, is going to teach you something. And if it's not teaching you anything, it's reinforcing your learning that you have already. I highly recommend this. It's a very generous offer. Obviously they're going to do it to then send you links to $20 courses that they think you're interested in, because that's the way the world is these days. But you don't have to subscribe and pay. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give me a thumbs up or give me a subscription even. That's always appreciated. It makes me feel that people are actually enjoying my content if you see the numbers going up rather than going down. I don't really care. What I do care about is interaction beneath the columns. If you've got any foreign, like American or British sprouting firms that you've used to get seeds that you would recommend, please put them in the comments section below. If you've had any problems with sprouting, let me know, etc, etc, etc. It's very simple, it's very easy, and it's absolutely, I would say, right up there, probably even higher than storing white rice. Toodles.
This has been a Dog in a Bonnet production, 2021.